Fort Bragg in North Carolina, and how they were using this military base to experiment and create the ultimate soldier, the ultimate warrior, half man, half machine. And they were using chip implants to accomplish this. Have all kinds of strange ultimate soldier programs going on at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. And now you've got Blackwater in North Carolina. Seems to me like they were just a good place to shift all these soldiers that they're turning into ultimate soldiers, put them at work in Blackwater. You know, it's a good place to employ them all, shift them all over there, and start using their new technology of being able to control a man's mind through chip implants. They've got these half machine, half man things going, and the bionic thing they condition people for. Just a lot of experimentation going on, and so that would be a good place to hide them, is Blackwater. You know, these I'm sure they're going to sneak in their clones, and a good way of telling a clone or a soul scalp is they don't have human emotions. They don't. A clone doesn't have a spirit, and so they wouldn't have the same human emotions that a normal human has. And also, a soul scalped being is just a empty shell of a human. The person who once used to be in that body is no longer there. There's something else that's taken over that body, an evil entity. Probably see the black soulless eyes, the black stare, the black gaze in the eyes. Just a real, like, the lights are on and no one's home type person, but very evil. And these are the types of beings that usually are the first ones to react around orgone. Somebody walking by them that has an orgone pendant on. You got orgone in your pocket, you got orgone in your purse, and you will see reactions from these different types of beings to the orgone that you have on you. It's almost just like a hideous hatred stare or glare. Some will just try to get away from you. Some will give you a dirty glance, stare at you. They don't like the orgone. They're not going to bother you. But it's one way of telling who's what in society today, because I'll tell you what, you just never know who's standing next to you in line, who's shopping in the same store with you. Yeah, we've got a society where everybody looks like humans. But eventually the veil's going to be lifted, and you're going to start seeing that not everybody in our society is actually a human being. You know, I warned years ago that silent invasion had begun, where aliens were starting to take over human bodies. And they do this through soul scalping. They take over a person's body and kill the person that had that body, or put that person's soul somewhere else, and so that person's separated from their body. They have various ways of doing things. They can reanimate a dead body. They can go to a morgue or get someone who's dying and go ahead and let that person die, but then take over that person's body and act like they were brought back to life. They can do that as well. Just various tricks of the trade that they can use to jump into a human body and take over the body itself. Our bodies, folks, are just shells for our spirits, our souls, and what makes us who we are is the spirits within us, our souls. And once that is gone, you just have a shell. You just have a jacket, a sleeve. It's just a body. It's just a hard shell. And this is what Satan's forces, his demonic entities and aliens, can take over and reanimate so that it looks like a live human being, even though the person who once lived in that body is long gone or dead. Someone once asked me, what are they doing with the souls of these beings? If they're soul scalping them, abducting their bodies, taking their bodies, and kicking the person out of his own body. You know, I've seen pictures, visions, and it's really sad, of some of these, a lot of these beings that have been soul scalped. Had a vision once of just, it's kind of really hard to say, but a place in Dulce Base. And one of the places I targeted this past summer, was Dulce Base. And seeing somewhere in Dulce Base what would look like a crematorium, just huge walls and thousands of these coffin type things where they're just boxes and in the wall, and you could pull them out, take the box out, and the person's soul was stuffed in these boxes. Now, you don't need a very large box. You don't need a 5-foot or 6-foot box to put a person's soul in, because it's the person's body, their shell, that is that tall. You can actually take a person's soul and put it in anything, even just a small 2-foot by 2-foot box, and they're entrapped. They can't get out. And so, yeah, I mean, there's some things that we don't want to hear. We don't like to hear. But I just say this so that you'll know what our war is, folks. It is us against them. And I stated on my site at thewatcherfiles.com, these alien beings, these reptilians, these greys, these ascended masters that are coming, these masters that the Bushes and the Cheneys and the Clintons worship in their secret societies, these tall gray beings, they hate humanity. They have no love for humanity. They want to destroy humanity. And they don't care if you're a man, woman, or child. They hate humans. They detest humans. As far as they're concerned, humans are cattle. And we're just waiting to be herded up by them and sent to these concentration camps, these martial law camps that your tax dollars have paid for to be erected, already erected and ready to go. Just waiting for the orders to start filling them up. And their whole agenda of eliminating life on Earth will kick in. And you think that's far-fetched, and I'm telling you, everything that they're doing aligns with the Bible. What the Bible says the last days are going to be like. You know, the Bible says that when the Lord returns, the second coming of Christ, that there's only going to be about 1/3 left of mankind. 1/3. And so how many? We have almost 7 billion people today. 1/3 of that, which is just over 1 billion, 1.5 billion maybe. I'm not a math genius. But if you look at the numbers, 1/3 of 7 billion isn't that great, folks. You're looking at about 1.5 billion people alive. And so what happens to the other 6 or 5.5 billion people? They're dead. And so how do they die? You know, and who's behind their death? And there's one person that is behind the death of all 5.5 billion people that are going to be dead. And his name is Satan. You know, I got an email from somebody asking me if Satan and Lucifer are the same thing. Yes, they're the same person. And of course they went on their own thing explaining to me why they're not. But I'll tell you why they are. Because of one verse in the book of Revelation that states, Satan is bound and cast into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. The Antichrist and the false prophet are chained and cast into the lake of fire. So these are our 3 dominant beings in the last days. And I've been warning you about the Antichrist and the false prophet, that they're the 2 riders of the horses. There's 4 horsemen of apocalypse. And Maitreya being the rider of the black horse, which is famine, and the Sananda, this Jesus Emmanuel that's coming, being the rider of the pale horse. And when the rider of the pale horse arrives, he brings death and hell with him, which is our first alien invasion on Earth, folks. That's really it's the alien invasion cleverly disguised as an angelic host from heaven. They're going to come looking like angels. They're going to sing heavenly songs. This is what really, really repulses me, is to know that when they land in Jerusalem, because they're going to have this big charade over Jerusalem, that Jesus is coming to earth. This is the second coming of Jesus, folks. He's coming to earth.